A man went to see his rabbi. He stated in a very serious tone, "Rabbi, something terrible is happening, and I have to talk to you about it." The rabbi asked, "What's wrong?" The man replied, "My wife is poisoning me." The rabbi, very surprised by this, asked, "How can that be?" The man then pleaded, "I'm telling you, I'm certain she's poisoning me. What should I do?" The rabbi then said, "Tell you what, let me talk to her. I'll see what I can find out, and I'll let you know." A week later, the rabbi called the man and said, "Well, I met with your wife. We talked for 3 hours." The man anxiously replied, "Yes. You want my advice?" Again, the man anxiously replied, "Yes." "Take the poison," said the rabbi. A bear cub ambles up to his father. "Daddy," he asks sheepishly, "am I a polar bear?" "What are they putting in your head, son?" "Of course you're a polar bear. Your mom's a polar bear, I'm a polar bear, and your brothers and sisters are polar bears. We're a family of polar bears." At that point, the cub's mother strolls by. "Mommy, Daddy says I'm a polar bear, but I don't think so. Be honest. Level with me. Am I really a polar bear?" "Of course you are, sweetie," she says in a very mother bear voice. "You eat seals, swim in the ocean, you've got that adorable black button nose and beautiful coat of white fur. Whatever would make you think you weren't a polar bear?" Looking even more distraught than ever, the little bear screams angrily, "Because I'm bloody freezing." One evening, my wife looked in the mirror and sighed. "I think I'm starting to lose my hair." I looked at her and hesitated. "I've actually noticed something." She immediately looked worried. "You have?" "Yeah, but I didn't want to bring it up." She became curious. "Where did you notice it?" I tried to think of a polite answer. Finally, I pointed toward her face and said, "Well, your mustache looks a little thinner lately." She stared at me in silence. I suddenly realized I'd chosen the worst possible answer. "On the bright side," I added nervously, "at least your eyebrows still look fantastic." She didn't speak. I decided it was probably best to stop talking. One evening, a little girl was sitting in the kitchen watching her mother wash the dishes. As her mother leaned over the sink, the girl noticed several strands of white hair mixed into her dark hair. "Mom," she asked curiously, "why do you have some white hairs?" Her mother smiled and decided to turn it into a lesson. "Well, sweetheart, whenever you do something that makes me upset, one of my hairs turns white." The little girl looked thoughtful. "So every time I make you angry, you get another white hair?" "That's right," her mother said. The girl nodded slowly and went back to playing. A few seconds later, she looked up again. "But Mom," the mother smiled. "Yes." The little girl pointed toward the hallway and innocently asked, "Then why is Grandma's hair completely white?" The mother suddenly stopped washing the dishes. My 6-year-old daughter came up to me one evening and suddenly asked, "Dad, will you remember me in 10 years?" I smiled and hugged her. "Of course I will, sweetheart. I'm not that old yet. I love you." She smiled. "I love you too, Dad." Then she paused for a moment and said, "Okay, knock, knock." I smiled. "Who's there?" She stared at me with a completely serious face. Then she said, "Dad, you already forgot who I am?" She kept a straight face for a few seconds before bursting out laughing. I'd been completely fooled by a 6-year-old. I guess I really should start worrying about my memory. A doctor noticed that his new patient looked extremely nervous before the examination. Trying to make conversation, he put on his gloves and said, "You look a little tense. Let me tell you something interesting." The patient nodded. "Do you know how latex gloves are made?" "No," she replied. The doctor smiled. "Well, there's apparently a factory where workers dip their hands into liquid latex, let it dry, and peel the gloves off." The patient listened quietly without even smiling. The doctor finished preparing for the examination and thought nothing more of it. A few moments later, the woman suddenly started laughing. The doctor looked puzzled. "What happened? What's so funny?" She covered her mouth and said, "I'm just imagining how they make latex gloves for feet." A woman visited her doctor and looked extremely worried. "Doctor, I'm having a strange problem. I've been getting an unusual discharge. The doctor nodded professionally. The doctor says, pop your knickers off and slip onto the bed. After a quick examination, he puts on his latex gloves and inserts 3 fingers into her vagina. How does everything feel? He asked. The woman suddenly smiled. Honestly, f***ing good. The doctor looked pleased with himself. Excellent. That means we're making progress. The woman laughed. Doctor, yes. The problem isn't there. She pointed toward her head and said, the discharge is actually coming from my ear. Was a man drowning his sorrows at the bar. A beautiful woman sat down beside him and asked, what is wrong? He said, my wife just left me because I am too kinky in bed. The lady gasped, my husband left me for the same reason. A few drinks later, they end up at her place and she says, I'm going to the bathroom to change into something more comfortable. 10 minutes later, she comes out, dressed head to toe in latex with a whip, but the man is headed out the door. She asks, where are you going? I thought you wanted to get kinky. He said, hey lady, I've already f***ed your dog and shit in your purse. I am going home. A man finds a hair in his chicken noodle soup. Annoyed, he tells the waitress, that's disgusting, and storms out without paying. The waitress watches him leave and sees him head across the street to a nearby hotel. After her shift, she goes to the hotel, explains the situation at the desk, and the clerk kindly gives her the guest room number. She knocks, but the door is cracked open, so she slips inside and discovers the man in the middle of an intimate moment with a woman who's surprisingly hairy downstairs. You disgusting pig, the waitress snaps. You'll eat a hairy woman, but you walk out on your bill over one hair in your soup? The man wipes his mouth and replies, cool as can be. Trust me, sweetheart, if I find a noodle in this woman's cunt, I won't pay for this either. A bus stops, and 2 Italian men get on. They seat themselves and begin to engage in animated conversation. A lady sitting behind them ignores their conversation at first, but her attention is galvanized when she hears one of the men say the following. Emma come first. Den I come. Den 2 asses come together. I come once more. 2 asses. They come together again. Den I come again and pee twice. Den I come one last a time. The woman sitting behind them is shocked. You foul-mouthed swine, retorted the lady indignantly. In this country, we don't talk about our sex lives in public. Hey, cool it down, lady, says the man. Who talking about a sexa? Emma just to tellin' my friend how to spell a Mississippi. One night, a wife didn't come home. The next morning, she casually told her husband, don't worry, I stayed at my friend's house. Her husband was suspicious, so he decided to check the story. He called her 10 closest friends one by one. Was she with you last night? Every single friend gave the same answer. Nope, she wasn't here. The husband hung up and shook his head. A few weeks later, the husband didn't come home one night. The next morning, he walked through the door and said, sorry, buddy. I stayed over at a friend's place. His wife immediately became suspicious. She called his 10 closest friends. Was my husband with you last night? 8 of them immediately replied, yes, he was here. One even added, he slept right here on the couch. The wife hung up, confused. Then she called the last friend. He answered and said, yep, he was here too. The wife sighed. Finally, someone honest. The friend replied, absolutely, although I have no idea where he is right now. I haven't seen him since Tuesday. Johnny's dad told Johnny to take a shower. I'm scared. Can I take a shower with you? Johnny said, no, son, that would be weird, his father replied. Please, he cried. Okay, but just don't look down. Johnny, being the curious boy he was, looked down. Dad, what's that? He asked. His dad gave him a weird face and said, that's my limousine. A couple days later, Johnny's mom wanted him to take a shower. Please, can I take a shower with you? I'm scared. Okay, his mom said, but just don't look up or down. Obviously, Johnny was curious again, so he looked down. Mommy, what's that? He asked. That's my garage, his mom said awkwardly. Johnny proceeded to look up. What are those? His mom looked disappointed. Those are my headlights. That night, Johnny was having a nightmare, so he went into his parents' room. Mommy, Daddy, I had a nightmare. Can I sleep with you? His mom said, Sure, but just don't pay any attention and keep your eyes closed. Johnny had another nightmare and woke up to a moaning sound, like a dying goat. He jumped and screamed, Hurry, turn on your headlights before Dad's limousine crashes into your garage. Bill had worked at a pickle factory for nearly 20 years. One evening, he finally admitted to his wife that he had developed a strange obsession with the pickle slicing machine. His wife looked worried. Bill, maybe you should talk to someone about that. But Bill shook his head. No way. That's too embarrassing. I'll get over it myself. A few weeks later, Bill came home looking absolutely miserable. His wife rushed over. What happened? Bill sighed. You remember that strange problem I told you about? She stared at him. Oh no. Bill nodded. Yep. His wife lowered her voice. Bill, what happened? I lost my job. She looked shocked. Bill, what happened with the pickle slicer? Bill looked down at the floor. Oh. He sighed. She lost her job too. A woman rushed into a supermarket with only a few items and headed straight for the express checkout. She noticed the cashier had his back turned and called out, Excuse me, I'm in a hurry. Could you please check me out? The cashier turned around, looked at her for a moment, and said, Sure. Then he glanced at her shopping basket and added, Wow, you really know how to pick the express line. The woman looked down at her basket. She had somehow grabbed 12 items instead of 10. Listen, a job is a job. We all need to put bread on the table, right? I'm a telemarketer. Not the most popular profession, but hey, I actually enjoy it. The other day I called a house, and a really sweet lady answered. Polite, cheerful. The kind of person who actually makes a telemarketer's day easier. After some small talk, I asked, Is Mr. Smith available? She sighed and said, I'm sorry, he doesn't live here anymore. That was a bit disappointing, but I stayed professional. I'm sorry to hear that, ma'am. Would you happen to have his new number? Of course, she replied happily, then gave it to me. I hung up, dialed the number, and a recording picked up. Thank you for calling Green Acres Cemetery. A plumber called me one morning and asked, Why haven't you paid for the job I did last week? I replied, What do you mean? I paid exactly what you quoted me. He sounded confused. I never gave you a quote. Yes, you did. I insisted. When I asked you when you could come and fix the problem, you said, I'm free on Friday. Two Irishmen were flipping through a mail-order catalog. Patty says, Look at these beautiful women, and the prices are reasonable too. Mick nods. I'm ordering one right now. 3 weeks later, Patty asks, Did your woman arrive yet? Mick replies, Not yet, but it shouldn't be long. Her clothes came yesterday. A guy walks into a pub and sees a sign hanging over the bar that reads cheeseburger, $1.50 chicken sandwich, $2.50 hand job, $10. He walks up to the bar and beckons one of the three exceptionally attractive blondes serving drinks. Can I help you? She asks. I was wondering, whispers the man. Are you the one who gives the hand jobs? Yes, she purrs. I am, the man replies. Well, wash your hands. I want a cheeseburger. 12 priests were about to be ordained. The final test was for them to line up in a straight row, totally nude in a garden, while a sexy and beautiful big-breasted nude model danced before them. Each priest had a small bell attached to his penis, and they were told that anyone whose bell rang when she danced in front of them would not be ordained because he had not reached a state of spiritual purity. The beautiful model danced before the first candidate with no reaction. She proceeded down the line with the same response from all the priests until she got to the final priest. As she danced, his bell began to ring so loudly that it flew off and fell, clattering to the ground. Embarrassed, he took a few steps forward and bent over to pick up the bell. Then all the other bells started to ring. One day a guy dies and finds himself in hell. As he is wallowing in despair, he has his first meeting with the devil, Satan. Why so glum? Guy, what do you think? I'm in hell. Satan, hell's not so bad. We actually have a lot of fun down here. Are you a drinking man? Guy, sure, I love to drink. Satan, well, you're gonna love Mondays then. On Mondays, that's all we do, drink. Whiskey, tequila, Guinness, wine coolers, Tab, and Fresca. We drink till we throw up, and then we drink some more. And you don't have to worry about getting a hangover because you're dead anyway. Guy, gee, that sounds great. Satan, are you a smoker? Guy, you better believe it. Satan, all right, you're gonna love Tuesdays. We get the finest cigars from all over the world and smoke our lungs out. If you get cancer, no biggie, you're already dead, remember? Guy, wow, that's awesome. Satan, I bet you like to gamble. Guy, why yes, as a matter of fact, I do. Satan, good, because on Wednesdays you can gamble all you want. Craps, blackjack, roulette, poker, slots, whatever. If you go bankrupt, it doesn't matter. You're dead anyhow. Guy, cool. Satan, what about drugs? Guy, are you kidding? Love drugs. You don't mean? Satan, that's right. Thursday is drug day. Help yourself to a great big bowl of crack or smack. Smoke a doobie the size of a submarine. You can do all the drugs you want. You're dead. So who cares? Guy, wow. I never realized hell was such a cool place. Satan, are you gay? Guy, no. Satan, oh, Fridays are going to be tough. A man walks into a bar and orders a drink. The bartender gives the man his drink, and the man asks, if I show you something crazy, would you let me have free drinks for the rest of the night? The bartender thinks for a minute, and then says, it would be something spectacular to take that offer. The man leans down and picks up a box and sets it on the bar. He opens the box, and inside is a small piano man, who is only 1 foot tall, and beside him a little piano. The piano man starts playing classical music like Beethoven and Chopin. Once he finishes, the bartender is in utter disbelief. He tells the man, you can have free drinks for the rest of the night, but only if you tell where you got this. The man says, in the alleyway behind your bar, there is a genie who is granting free wishes to everyone who wants them. Elated, the bartender heads behind his bar to see if it were true. A few minutes pass, and out of the alleyway erupts a cacophony of quacking. The bartender rushes back into the bar and shuts his door against a wave of thousands of ducks. He manages to secure the door and says to the man, I think that the genie is hard of hearing because after I asked for $1 million, these ducks appeared by the thousands. The man chuckles and says, did you really think I wish for a 12-inch pianist? I took my daughter out for her first drink. While reading an article about fathers and sons drinking together, I remembered the time I took my daughter out for her first drink. Off we went to our local bar only 2 blocks from the house. I got her a Guinness. She didn't like it, so I drank it. Then I got her a Killian's. She didn't like that either, so I drank it. Finally, I thought she might like some Harp Lager. She didn't. I drank it. I thought maybe she'd like whiskey better than beer. So we tried a Jameson's. Nope. In desperation, I had her try that 25-year-old Glenfiddich, the bar's finest scotch. She wouldn't even smell it. What could I do but drink it? By the time I realized she just didn't like to drink, I was so shit-faced I could hardly push her stroller back home. 2 Southern belles are walking down a country road. They are out enjoying a sunset walk and admiring the scenery when they come across a man taking photographs. The man, being awestruck at the beauty of the 2 ladies, asks if he can take their picture with the setting sun in the background. The ladies discuss the idea and eventually agree. The photographer begins setting up his tripod and adjusting his camera. One of the ladies asks, what is he doing? The other replies in a thick Southern drawl, he's going to focus. Then the first says, both of us? A married couple went to the hospital to have their baby delivered. Upon their arrival, the doctor said he had invented a new machine that would transfer a portion of the mother's labor pain to the father. He asked if they were willing to try it out. They were both very much in favor of it. The doctor set the pain transfer to 10% for starters, explaining that even 10% was probably more pain than the father had ever experienced before. But as the labor progressed, The husband felt fine and asked the doctor to go ahead and kick it up a notch. The doctor then adjusted the machine to 20% pain transfer. The husband was still feeling fine. The doctor checked the husband's blood pressure and was amazed at how well he was doing. At this point, they decided to try for 50%. The husband continued to feel quite well. Since the pain transfer was obviously helping out the wife considerably, the husband encouraged the doctor to transfer all the pain to him. The wife delivered a healthy baby with virtually no pain. She and her husband were ecstatic. When they got home, the mailman was dead on the porch. A principal notices a post-it on a locker. Jocks of JFK High. This small change in diet can boost your physique forever. Head to the gym to find out how. Puzzled, he pulls it off and continues down the hall. Just a few lockers down, another catches his eye. Hey goth girls, tired of dark eyeliner that just runs all day? One simple trick will fix it. Find out how in the gym. Okay, I'll bite. The principal thinks to himself. He walks to the gymnasium, pushes open the door, and immediately gets stuck. He looks down and sees the floor covered with flypaper glue. Outraged, he removes his shoes to unstick himself and races around the school until he finds a young man placing a note, this time aimed at math nerds, on yet another locker. He slaps the note out of his hand and shouts, "Quit posting clickbait everywhere." Kelly hobbled into the bar on a crutch with one arm in a cast. "My God, what happened to you?" the bartender asked. "I got in a tiff with Riley." "Riley? He's just a wee fellow," the barkeep said, surprised. "He must have had something in his hand." "That he did," Kelly said. "A shovel it was." "Dear Lord, didn't you have anything in your hand?" That I did," Mrs. Riley's right breast, Kelly said. "And a beautiful thing it was, but not much use in a fight."